I would like to do a video on the material that I have linked to this work folder about humor and play and how um, humor is part of a discussion on homelessness. Um, this is by the author L. David Ritchie. I have the article here. And your job was to read at least the first 10 pages. That was the minimum. If you wanted to skim ahead, and go ahead and do that for the body, then that's certainly okay. Then you needed to read the last section of this. All right, so this is uh, this is where the conclusion is reiterated, and the call for further research is extended. All right, so that's starting at page 38, and then you just read to the end. So one of the reasons this is so physically large is that it's double spaced. But another reason is that there's quite an extensive review of literature presented here at the beginning that I think is very beneficial to someone who seriously is trying to learn about humor and how theories of humor have been presented and applied to social situations or psychological situations. Um, I think that this section where all these sources are mentioned and talked about, even though it doesn't necessarily have a connection to the actual, um, the actual discussion that Ritchie is presenting and building on, is useful to someone like us, people like us who are trying to learn about humor and are trying to find the important pieces, if you will, that we need to read in order to have sort of a crash course to get to the point where we can understand some of the theories that are out there and maybe find one that helps us make our point with what we want to do with the signs. So this is a lot, though. This is a very large review of literature, and I would not be expecting this from any of your papers. And a lot of academic work doesn't really have a review of literature that's this extensive. If you really slow down and pay attention as you read this, you'll see that some of the material covered here about humor is all over the place. So it's a very big overview, and then Ritchie, as he gets through that, is eventually going to settle down to sort of a small selection of that. So the question would be, why does he provide all of this in the first place? And the answer is the beneficial answer is he's trying to set the stage so that you can understand how he's done the reading, he's done the work, and then also how you can understand that he's making a contribution to the things that are already there. So now, let me just stop here really quickly to remind us that you are not going to be writing a paper like this for this Composition 1 class. All right, but I want you to start sensing what an academic piece is actually trying to do. And I think for this level class, if you work with me with my idea, and I'll tell you how to write it, if we can just write the proposal, right? The proposal is simply the writing up of a plan to do research. It's not the research, right? It's the plan for the research. And the reason you would write a proposal is that maybe you need to get your idea approved before you actually go and do the thing. Okay. Now in college writing 1 and 2 undergraduate level, you may need to check your topic with your teacher first, but you don't necessarily have to worry about proposals like this. As you get to your upper graduate years and in grad school, you will. Now, you might not think you're going to grad school, and in fact, you might not. Some of you know already that you're going to grad school. I think that this is beneficial to do for all of us, because for those of you that know you're going to grad school, you may as well get used to this sort of thinking. For those of you that right now say, no, I'm not, that's not for me, that's okay. If you don't go, I hope you find the path that really is right for you. But sometimes things change, and you might think you're not going now, but 2 or 3 years down from now, from this point, you'll end up going. So this is something I'm okay with as bringing into college writing 1, because I think that it's going to be beneficial for us. And it's better for us to do this, I believe, than just another uh, research paper over a controversial issues that you might have already written 2 or 3 of these in high school. So um, let's go ahead and continue on with what I want you to do here. I want you to pay attention to page 1 and 2. I know you can't see this in the video, but um, you get this is your front matter, if you will. You get the title, the affiliation of the author, a little, and then you get a little bit of an author's note. He wants to tell you something about the conversation. But what I really want you to see is the abstract. Okay, so a lot of academic work, especially the journal articles, will have an abstract that goes along with them in the front, right under the title, or in the first 1 or 2 pages, provided by the author or the editor, and the abstract is there to give you a quick overview of the article. So please read the abstract carefully. It's going to save you some time, okay? And as you work through pages 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then the conclusion pages, starting I think at page 38. Let me just check that number. Of course, you don't have to read the works cited, but yes, the middle of page 38 on 39, 40, 41, and 42, you might find areas that you can skim because you already know what it's going to do because of the abstract. Please read the abstract carefully and try to understand that one paragraph, because it really will give you a mental map about the work to follow, okay? So as you get into this and you read, all right, you read pages 3 and 4, notice that the essay starts with pertinent and guiding questions, which is a way to start. Okay, you can model your own work just about on anything that's in publication, because that once it gets to that point, you know that the approach or the techniques have kind of been accepted as far as like this is a legitimate way to start a piece or an article. But notice that you do have the topic, and you have sort of a narrowing of the topic in the second paragraph. And then you really get the review of literature that just starts. And remember, the review of literature here is not the material that this person is going to use, Ritchie uses to support his own observations and analysis of the conversation that he records. Again, it's just this broad overview of work on humor, and then work on humor with socially sensitive topics, debatable, controversial topics over which people disagree, topics full of tension. You know, he's going to cover all of this in the review of lit. Okay, so now I want you to pay attention to how he signals new authors and how he uses in-text citation. And at this point right now, I'm not necessarily saying you have to understand every line, but just don't stop reading. All right, you might read a paragraph and you might not really know exactly what he's saying. And I say that, please accept this with 2 qualifications. One, you're going to get better with practice. If this is really where you're headed and you really need to nail down academic writing, you're going to get better with practice. In terms of just understanding the way the stuff is usually written, it's usually written with pretty poor styling. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the way a lot of these articles are written, because that leads to my second point. Sometimes the diction and the syntax is just too abstract, and the person is hedging or using generalities in abstract notions a little carelessly or flippantly, a little over enthusiastically, and sometimes a 10-page intro like this could really be 5 pages or 6 if they just talked a little more down to earth normally, and they realized that good ideas can be expressed with simple language. All right, you never have to use syntax and obscure wording to try to elevate the intellectual essence of your thought. Okay, if you have to use technical jargon and convoluted sentencing and redundant phrases. And if you have to overwrite like that to make your work sound intelligent and interesting, then I think that's a real handicap for a writer. Okay, but nevertheless, it does seem like this is kind of the norm for academic writing, to its shame, I think. But try to get through it and get what you can. Okay. Um, Now, what I want you to see, okay, is that let's talk about two things that I want you to remember as you do this. One is that this is the, the heart of this essay, in fact, is a discussion that Ritchie records in his living room, and 6 people are participating in the discussion. There's 2 or 3 males, 2 or 3 females, and they have different class backgrounds slightly, okay, and they've had experiences with meeting the people they think are homeless, and also one has had an experience of kind of living in a tent for a while, um, and they don't necessarily disagree or agree over um, any sort of policy over the issue. Now, Ritchie does mention from pages 1 to 10 that homelessness is at this point, not a truly polarizing concept issue by polarizing, separating people into strong groups. Not like, say, gun control, abortion, immigration. Okay. Now, it may start becoming, a polarizing topic, but he does mention that in the conversation at hand, they are talking about the homeless, and it's not the type of issue that really has strong reaction, and so I appreciate that qualification. However, he really tries to record the conversation. He tries to make a lot about these individual comments. And so I want to say right here that sort of approach isn't really going to be very convincing to anyone, because these are 6 people. They're probably his friends, and you can't draw general conclusions from the jokes that 1 or 2 people are saying about homelessness. Now, I don't know how many of the 6 are saying these jokes, right, and how many mean them, how many are using them the way that Ritchie tries to make it sound like they're using them, but it's just not enough. Okay, so if I were his editor, I would say, look, you need to rethink this and maybe find something that you can actually write about in a way that is going to be respected by the community concerning the evidence behind it. Because I would never allow you to sit down with 6 of your friends and talk about student loans and then write an academic paper on some of the comments that were made in that conversation. I would say, if you're going to try to sense what is really representative in your in your peer group, you need to do something better that brings in more numbers and more information. So there's that. That's an issue, but he does sort of refer to this in the conclusion that you'll read by saying that they need to do more research. There's a call for more research. And that's a closing technique for academic work. But by the way, this is not a proposal here. This is an actual analysis of the conversation. That's why I say it's never going to be viewed as conclusive. This could be viewed as a starting point, but we need more research, and some of the research just needs to reduplicate this on a larger scale. So there is at the end a call for further research, and that's what he needed to do. To just be honest with the way the conclusions are drawn. They're drawn from very scant evidence, so you can't really pretend that they've been established. All right. Now, how does this play for you? Well, we're going to use this in our proposal. Remember that the assignment that we're working through is really the major assignment of this class concerning the research and the amount of work we're putting into it. And we need to really be able to use at least one source to to situate our own approach, right? So I have already asked you to go online to see if there's any work done out there on homelessness and humor in the signs, okay? And if you haven't found something that exactly covers the funny signs, now be careful now, because if you use AI for this, you just might get a summary of the signs that are out there, which is what you've already done just looking through the images. So don't consider a source that just says, oh, there are funny homeless signs out there. Here's a few. That's not a source that's going to help you build an analysis or an argument or an observation, present a unique observation. That's just the computer doing for you what I asked you to do just by scrolling through the images, right? I'm wondering if you found any work that tries to analyze, that says, yes, there is humor in some of the homeless signs out there, and here's why. Here's what they're trying to do. Here's a theory as to why we respond to this, or that's what I'm asking you to see if you can find. Now, if you can't find it, that's okay. I just want you to see what you can find. If you can't find something right on humor and homelessness and the signs, then see what's the next best thing. And for example, this is how we use humor in our conversations among our peers. Notice that the conversation here on this essay of Ritchie's is not 6 homeless people talking. These are 6 of his peers and friends or students talking. Okay, so this one is looking at how jokes show up when a group of people that are kind of on the same level in terms of economy or education, wealth, class, education, talk amongst each other when there is a potentially thorny issue. How does humor help to diffuse it? How does his particular point is how does humor help us reach some conclusions about what we think about homelessness. And so this is kind of close, but this has nothing to do with the signs. You see what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with someone walking or in the car taking a picture with their phone and then uploading that to their social media account. This doesn't even touch that. So this is close to kind of what we're trying to look at. And because it's one of the closer sources I found, I'm going to bring it in and use it for our review of lit, so that our readers can see, hey, there is stuff out there that's kind of approaching what this person wants to do, but they're really not there yet, which is going to support my notion that we have an original observation or original thought process, okay? So we're going to use this in our proposal. That's why you kind of need to know it. And I'm going to also be asking you to use 2 other sources that are kind of anywhere in the ballpark that has to do with humor and homelessness. You can use the back of this, the works cited, and try to maybe find summaries of some of the sources if you want. Or maybe you've already found some websites or something online that you can just bring into the proposal, okay? So just to recap quickly, I know that this video is getting a bit long, but where we're headed is this. We're going to be writing maybe a 3 or 4 page proposal. We're going to be pretending that we're writing it to, say, a master's thesis director or something like that, so someone that can say yes, continue on, or don't, I'm not going to accept this, stop. So you need to get an overview or proposal going, and we're doing it on humor and homeless signs and how people who obviously have phones and social network accounts respond to this. That's kind of our topic here. How we represent homelessness to ourselves online, okay? And we're going to have to explain that, and then we're going to have to show that while there has been some work on humor, a lot of work on humor, there's been some work on humor with homelessness and other controversial issues, and we'll have to summarize it like 2 or 3 of those, and then we're going to be able to say now our approach is going to be kind of unique, because while it's in that ballpark, it's not doing anything that these sources have already done. And then we'll explain what we plan to do. That's the topic of my next video for the next work folder. And then we'll present that as the proposal. So we're headed in the right direction. I hope I've asked you to kind of take notes on things. You need to have some of these humorous signs at hand so we can quote some of them in our proposal. So remember when I asked you to look at the categories, and then I said there's the category of the homeless. sign, the humorous sign. Okay, I want you to be able to have some of those at hand, as images. And then I've asked you to look on, in the last work folder, I've asked you to look online just to see if there's anything on humor and the signs, homeless signs, anything. And if not, then how about humor with homelessness? If not that, how about just humor with trauma or tragedy or social problems? Okay, um, and just list 3. Okay, and now here we're going to work with this one. Try to understand this. This is going to be one of the things we mentioned as a review of literature. One of the things we review in our proposal. Okay, so we're headed in the right direction. I hope that you're somehow keeping track of this in the way that's best for you. And it's all leading towards about a 4-page essay that's going to propose our idea and how we would move forward with the research and what we hope to accomplish with it. Okay, thank you for watching.